There, this is Ian for IanMRoundtree.com with another book review for you. I have today Enterprise Social Technology by Scott Klososky and Friends. I say and friends because this is a crowdsourced book, which made it a really interesting read. I was sent the book by the publisher who wanted to know what I thought about it, good, bad, or ugly. So unfortunately I have all three to give to you. The ugly is that this is not a book that's written in the language we're used to reading books. Being crowdsourced, there's a section in the back of the book that gives some profile information on the content writers, which is really helpful, and I wish this had been at the front, because reading through every 50 pages or so, it feels like it jumps formats entirely. Not everybody's going to notice this, but being written by so many authors, I mean, for anybody that's used to compiling group documents, this might have a familiar flavor to it. You can really tell when the author changes, and I'm sure that's contrary to the efforts of the book's editors and curators, who did what feels like a pretty good job of merging the voices of the various authors, because their profiles are fairly diverse. The bad about the book is that this is not a book written in the voice that we're used to. We, speaking in terms of the social media profession and people who are content creators on the web, we're used to seeing really high-end, high-energy books like Content Rules from Ann Handley and C.C. Chapman, or The Now Revolution, or 6 Pixels of Separation. We're used to trust agents style books, right? That make the value proposition to us so that we can make the value proposition to others. This is not that book. The good about this book is really in the subtitle, which is helping organizations harness the power of social media, social networking, and social relevance. Scott makes a really good value proposition for organizations directly, not really in line with the standard consultant, content producer flavor. I think this is going to be a really jarring read for anybody that decides to pick it up. I believe it's available through, the URL here is enterprisesocialtechnology.com, naturally. It's also available through Greenleaf Book Group Press. It's bizarre to say the same thing about a book in good, bad, and ugly, because really that's what it amounts to. The information in Enterprise Social Technology is really good. The data is fantastic. There's not a lot of graphing or statistics. It's laid out in a really nice linear fashion. It does a really good job of speaking corporate, which not all of us always get. The language that's used in boardrooms is so often very different from the language that's used on the production floor, no matter what kind of thing you're producing. This speaks in a boardroom language, which Scott is eminently familiar with. He's run 3 startups. He's been all over the place. He does speaking and consulting and all kinds of other things. I don't honestly know enough about him to make an assessment of him as an author, and I don't feel this book gives me that, given that the information came from so many sources. It's a really interesting read if you can push yourself through it. It's not engaging in the same way as so many blog writer authored books are, but it gives you a really good sense of perhaps how to make the value proposition for social media and consistent content production to way larger groups of people than we're used to dealing with. Even in the sense of, I mean, if I'm a consultant for a larger company, I'm going to deal with a small group of people that are usually producing the content, and I have to convince them to produce online content instead of print content, or social content instead of publicized content like white papers. With them, it's a media change. With the boardroom, who are completely removed from the media production side, a book written in the language that enterprise social technology is written may be very helpful. There are a couple of lines out of here I'm going to be pulling into some of my own documentation and communication for people that I just don't normally feel I can communicate with, mostly because I just don't speak their language. They're not listening to the words I'm saying the way I'm saying them. So out of 5, I give this a solid 3.5, because most of it is information that's been around for a long time. This is knowledge that we already have. 3 out of the 3.5 goes entirely to the fact that this is a completely new tool. Crowdscribed is a relatively new site, crowdscribed.com, don't forget the D, and I don't feel as though this would be a book I would be comfortable producing myself or suggesting that other people produce. But in terms of aggregating large amounts of information, it's a pretty thick book. I mean, for a business book at 270 pages, it's very dense. There are virtually no images, no graphs, not a lot of data. It's a really dense, highly packed, informational book. I would not have written this. A lot of this information is presented in a way that just doesn't jive with me. But it's clear enough, concise enough in most places. Paragraph and a half or page and a half paragraphs are not always the best idea when you're a blogger. But it does a very good job, if you're looking for it, of providing a slightly different side of the Rosetta Stone. If you're feeling like you've got challenges dealing with people who are in business and not in your business, and making a value proposition for the media work that you're doing on behalf of whoever's producing it, enterprise social technology might just give you the tools you need to make that communication style your own in a little bit of a different way than we're used to doing. So pick it up if you can, if you're interested in that kind of thing, of course. And until next time, go out and engage influencers.